They were never supposed to be here. Asian carp, sleek, silver, and relentless, were brought to the United States in the 1970s with good intentions. Catfish farmers wanted a natural way to clean algae and control pests in their ponds. It seemed harmless, but within a few years, floods washed the fish into the Mississippi River system, and what started as a simple experiment became one of the biggest ecological disasters in modern American history. The fight against them has now become a billion-dollar war between man and nature, one where the stakes aren't just about fish, but the future of America's waterways themselves. The first sign of trouble came quietly. Fishermen on the Illinois and Missouri rivers started catching strange fish, huge, jumping creatures that could grow over 4 feet long and weigh more than 80 pounds. They weren't just big, they were everywhere. Asian carp breed explosively, with females laying up to 1 million eggs a year. And they eat almost everything small fish and native species depend on: plankton, algae, microscopic life forms that fuel entire ecosystems. Within a decade, they turned once diverse rivers into biological deserts, where almost nothing else could compete. To see them in action is to witness chaos. When boats speed down infested rivers, the carp leap from the water like missiles, some flying 10 feet into the air. They smash into hulls, hit passengers, and even knock people unconscious. In one case, a water skier broke his jaw when a carp struck his face at 40 miles per hour. It's no wonder people call them the most hated fish in America. But beneath the absurdity of flying fish lies a nightmare scientists are still trying to contain: a species that threatens to invade the Great Lakes, one of the most valuable freshwater ecosystems on Earth. The Great Lakes supply drinking water to over 30 million people and generate billions in tourism and fishing revenue. If Asian carp reach them, experts say it could collapse entire industries. Native fish like perch, trout, and whitefish would lose their food sources, while commercial fishermen would lose their livelihoods. The ecological balance, built over centuries, would tilt overnight. And so, a quiet river problem turned into a national emergency. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers was called in. Barriers were built. Millions of dollars poured into electric fences, sonar fields, and experimental deterrents. But the carp kept coming. In the narrow channels connecting the Illinois River to Lake Michigan, a sophisticated defense line now hums beneath the surface. Electric currents pulse through the water, designed to shock or repel any carp that approach. Patrol boats scan constantly. Drones and underwater sensors monitor movement day and night. It looks like something from a sci-fi movie, a high-tech wall against an ancient enemy. Yet every few months, reports come in, another carp spotted closer to the lake. Every breach sends waves of panic through the scientific community. Because if even a handful make it through and reproduce, it could be game over. What makes the carp so hard to stop isn't just their numbers, it's their resilience. They thrive in murky, low-oxygen water that would suffocate most fish. They can survive weeks without food. They even sense electric fields and sonar, adapting their behavior to avoid traps. The U.S. has spent more than $1 billion on containment, but the carp evolve faster than the defenses can keep up. And unlike invasive species you can poison or freeze out, these fish spread through connected waterways that span half the country. They've been found as far north as Minnesota and as far south as Louisiana. On the front lines are fishermen turned bounty hunters. In states like Kentucky and Tennessee, crews head out daily to haul tons of carp from the rivers. The government pays them by the pound to reduce populations. Their boats are outfitted with giant nets and specialized gear to handle the sheer volume, sometimes pulling in 10,000 pounds a day. The fish are shipped to processing plants, turned into fertilizer, pet food, or exported to countries that consider them a delicacy. It's hard, dirty work, but it's become a new economy born from desperation. Some crews call themselves the cleanup army, fighting a losing battle one haul at a time. The irony is that Asian carp aren't evil. They're just doing what nature programmed them to do: eat, breed, and survive. The real problem lies in the gap between human intention and consequence. They were introduced to solve one problem, and now they've become a symbol of how a single ecological misstep can spiral out of control. Scientists compare them to an underwater wildfire. Once it starts, it's almost impossible to stop. Entire towns along the river have changed their economies, their festivals, even their identities around the carp invasion. There's a Carp Madness tournament in Kentucky where fishermen compete to catch the biggest haul. What began as panic has turned, at times, into dark comedy. Still, not everyone has given up hope. Researchers are experimenting with new tactics, biological controls, genetic sterilization, and even scent-based traps that lure carp away from key waterways. Some teams have trained specially designed carp herding boats that use sound waves to push schools toward nets. Others are exploring commercial solutions, turning carp into sustainable protein, fish cakes, or fertilizer to give them market value. The logic is simple. If enough people profit from catching them, maybe humans can turn this disaster into opportunity. But beneath the optimism is a quiet realization: nature rarely loses. No matter how advanced the technology or how determined the effort, once a species like this takes hold, true eradication is nearly impossible. What the US can hope for now is control, not victory. To slow the spread, buy time, and adapt. On a calm morning near the Mississippi, the water looks peaceful. Fishermen cast their nets as sunlight glints off the ripples. But just below the surface, the carp are there, millions of them, moving as one. It's a reminder that even in a world dominated by human engineering and control, nature still finds ways to push back. The fight against America's most hated fish isn't just about saving lakes or rivers. It's about learning humility, the hard lesson that once we open a door to the wild, we don't get to decide what comes through. And for the people living along these waters, that fight is far from over.